Yes, we have come again to address a specific issue of false narratives being introduced into the arena by people who certainly know the truth. They are trying to put the tag of secession and the treason that goes with secession on the self-determination push being driven by the indigenous Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination. What is going on is that what the indigenous nationalities have done is in writing. The reference again is the December 16th Constitutional Force Majeure Proclamation that details all of what their complaints and grievances are and what propositions they have put forward in form of those demands and what has to be done in form of the November of 2018 open memo. Everything they say should be done or was the problem is in writing. And so if without looking at it, you begin to say it is secession from what? There's no Nigeria from which anybody will have to secede now. Again, back to our map. What we're dealing with is a situation in which the 12 contiguous states of the far north, the one in yellow that adopted Sharia, in the face of the provision of Section 10 of the already disputed Constitution. And if I may, let me actually read out that Section 10 so that people can understand what happened with the secession, what happened with these 12 contiguous states that simultaneously imposed Sharia in year 2000. Simultaneous, contiguous. Section 10 of the fraudulent Constitution admits to some of the truths. It reads, the government of the Federation of a state shall not adopt any religion as state religion, full stop. That's all. I repeat, the government of the Federation or of a state shall not adopt any religion as state religion. This is the provision in this constitution that makes Nigeria a secular state. So for these 12 states to act simultaneously in the manner they did in year 2000, being contiguous, it means each of the houses of assembly passing the laws and then the governor signing it into law and then setting up Hizbah, the Sharia police. That's the only section of the country that has seceded from the secular union of Nigeria. But the rest of us in this alliance looked at it because they went into due process. We interpreted what they did as a exercise of their right to self-determination. That's what they've taken their sovereignty from your Nigeria and they've moved on. What they've been doing since after they moved on was to regroup and come back on a conquest mission. That's what they're doing now. And it is in response to all of that that the rest of Nigeria went on to also step into their own right to self-determination, since the constitution that brings everybody together is a forgery. Is being repudiated in every democratic way. And so the mischief of wanting to target secession, is just it's marks of illiteracy, and it's disgraceful that people who are lawyers, people who are supposed to know, some of people who have a PhD, some even say it's treason. Treason, the only treason on the table right now is the treason of holding on to a forgery, a forged instrument. We did not make this constitution. The people who are standing on it to operate the Union of Nigeria, they know that it is a forgery and a fraud. We went to court in 2007 to place it before the court to say, from the account of the author, Absalom Abubakar, And the preamble that claims that we went into a meeting, that we, meaning the constituent, the sovereign constituent components. That is what it means, that we the people. And so, Decree number 24 of 1999, which tells the story of how the Constitution came about, from the author himself, Absalom Abaka. He talked about how he formed a committee he called the Constitution Debate Coordinating Committee that went around. The meeting that will yield Constitution must be one between the federating units, must be one between those who can be countries of their own. Let those who have been deceiving themselves in all kinds of small places listen to it now. Some of them are professors of law, some of them are senior advocates talking trash. The meeting that will become Constitution is one between those who should have been countries of their own. The Yoruba, that would be a country of 50-60 million people if there was no Nigeria occupying their space and desecrating their space. The eastern, the lower Niger, that could be a country of 70 million people if there was no Nigeria desecrating the place, occupying the place against their will. The same thing as Middle Belt. And so it is that meeting in which they come with their sovereignties to decide two things: that they will be in a union, and then the terms of being in that union. That is what the Constitution is supposed to settle. And they will have their own individual constitutions because we are a federation. So if instead of going through that route, you sit in one corner and which day was it that Yadudu, I think it was May, that was 2-3 days ago, 2 days ago. And I saw Yadudu, Professor Yadudu, the quota Professor Yadudu, the illiterate Professor Yadudu, going to national TV to say that the Constitution, that the issues being raised about the Constitution and how it came, that everything can be resolved by amendment. What are you amending? We are saying we never made a Constitution. Is it not easier to put aside the forgery and go and discuss to form a union and process it to become Constitution if we all agree? What are you running away from? This sovereignty dispute has been on the table since 1967. Yadudu goes to TV because he was the one that processed the back end of what became the 1999 Constitution, to say that the amendment provisions in the Constitution is enough to change it even entirely, to bring about a new Constitution. Why do I have to go through the hurdle of coming before the Assembly constituted from 36 states that were imposed by brigandage? Who am I going to meet in the place? Who taught Yadudu that jurisprudence in which our sovereignty should now be in the hands of the National Assembly? Where did he learn that from? And he has been teaching generations of people who have become senior advocates and professors themselves, some of them are in the Senate. Yadudu is illiterate on this subject matter. He doesn't know anything on the jurisprudence of constitution making. That's why he's talking about National Assembly as the place or the venue for going to discuss our sovereignty. And so we come back to the question of who is committing treason. It is the people who are swearing to defend and uphold this fraud that are committing treason against the rest of us, because they are the ones hijacking our sovereignty, selling 3 million barrels of crude oil every day and sharing the money over the heads of the owners, sending army and police to go and kill people all over the place, partnering with international terrorists. We saw how ISIS came in 2012 to join forces with Boko Haram, and they became ISWAP. And now they are sitting on top of all of that. We saw when Danjuma raised the alarm about the collusion between the government, the illicit federal government, because we can't have a federal government if we're not a federation. We ceased to be a federation in 1966. So when we say illicit federal government, it's not about the Buhari that is in government house today. We're saying that the Federation of Nigeria died in 1966. The carcass was hijacked by a small section of the country that is still imposing itself on the rest of Nigeria. They managed to impose a constitution that we didn't discuss, and they put our signature. They have the temerity to put our signature to that constitution, to say, oh, we made it. And we've tolerated it for 21 years. And people who are supposed to be rallying around the peaceful propositions of how to address the issue are still going around running their mouth, talking nonsense. So what is being pursued now by NINAS, the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, is actually self-determination. That is what it's called. And it's an inalienable right. What the fundamental human right is to the individual is what this self-determination right is to the community. The community in the sense of, if you are a distinct ethnic nation, if you are a distinct distinct people in your ancestral space, that right accrues to you and is not dependent on anybody agreeing with you. By the UN instrument governing the situation, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples that came in 2007, I happen to have been directly involved in how it came. Professor Soyinka, became the medium by which we were able to reach Kofi Annan. And somehow that instrument, emerged. That instrument says, in essence, if you are a distinct nationality in your ancestral space, you are entitled to be there. If anybody wants to, if you are entitled to be there by yourself, using whatever God put there to better yourself. If anybody wants to be in union with you, that person has to convince you. Because the UN found out that all the wars they were trying to separate over the years came from ethnic domination in one form or the other. If it's not the Nazis that will declare themselves superior and begin to kill others, it will be the Tutsi and the Hutu, or the Fulani, as we have seen in Nigeria, or the Boers, as we saw in South Africa. So the solution they have found is to now say, by that United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, that if you are a distinct nationality on your ancestral space, if you are Scot in Scotland, if you are Catalan in Catalonia, if you are Corsican in Corsica or France, if you are Ijaw in Ijaw land, if you are Yoruba in Yoruba land, you are entitled to be there by yourself. It doesn't matter how Lugard came in 1914 and how you became Nigeria. All of that, everything is now subject to that right to self-determination. And so it is the exercise of that right that these indigenous nationalities are doing, because the Constitution of Nigeria of 1999 was done in defiance of, in negation of our right to self-determination. And if anybody doesn't understand that, again, I refer the person to section 14.2a of this same illicit constitution that admitted that sovereignty belongs to the people, from whom government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority, meaning that only the people in exercise of their sovereignty can make an instrument that will confer power and authority. What we have going on in Nigeria today, so that nobody will say they were not told, is that the illicit federal government of Nigeria is now hanging on to this forgery as a source of power and authority. And the owners of the sovereignty have organized themselves in these formations we have seen to step forward to say, we've endured it for 21 years and no more. This constitution is a forgery and can no longer be basis of the union. They went to solemn assemblies. We saw it in Port Harcourt in 2015. We saw it in Ibadan in 2017, 7th of September at Adama Simba Stadium. We saw it in Makurdi on the July 18th of 2018. So the nationalities spread across this south and middle belt have done everything democratically possible to tell everybody that they can't continue to live under the bondage of this instrument of death that seized all their assets and now opened them up. You saw when our borders were thrown up open by people who are bringing people of their own stock, the Fulani, to come and become the new owners of Nigeria, eliminating the owners of the land. And we all pretend we do not. So the issue is a sovereignty dispute, and the union of Nigeria as defined by this constitution is at an end for these indigenous nationalities. They have not taken unilateral actions. They have raised their grievances and placed on the table for discussions. They have offered together a transitioning. Let those in government house, whether it's president and federal or governors and all the other people, remain in office in the period that this apartheid constitution of Nigeria is taken out peacefully. But if they think they have become the new owners of our sovereignty, they are going to have to contend with their people, the people in whose name they've been going forward to become president and governor and senator. It's just going to become matter on the street. We are the only statesmen, we are the only peacemakers left, inviting everybody to come so that the matter doesn't resolve itself on the street. So when characters like Yadudu, who was central to, he was Abacha's chief legal advisor, who had been processing something that will keep Abacha for life, and then Absalom Abubakar retained him. And he still does not realize he has caused enough damage. He has the temerity to go to national TV to say that National Assembly is the one that will now decide our sovereignty. Let him go and look for how to learn. The mediocrity they impose on us is costing too much blood already. Let Yadudu go and look for who will teach him the jurisprudence of constitution making. And all these other senior advocates and professors that are talking trash all over the place. Reuben Abati says treason. Treason from who? By who? Who taught him that kind of law? And so we come, this matter is only a matter of the degree of autonomy. The people talking about restructuring, the people talking about Odua Republic, the people talking about Biafra Republic, the people talking about resource control, they are all expressing constitutional grievances. We have framed it all into questions that can be answered under a roof, around a table, for everybody, to the satisfaction of everybody. We either go to do that now that we can, or those who are being killed and who have the inalienable right to exercise their right to self-determination will go unilateral. Some of them are armed, and we're saying to them, it hasn't come to armed engagement. We have a remedy, self-determination. The processes are almost 80-90% done. We can come to the end of it by referendums. It is by referendum that you decide. The Reuben Abati that was talking about or the governor in Ondo that was talking about, Professor Akintoye as an unknown quantity. Can you imagine the level of lunacy we're talking about? That people will gather and make this, people who are under the threat, existential threat. We're talking about death here. The assets have been taken. Everything has been, every other thing that they will wish to have as human beings have been desecrated. And then they come to say, let us do it this way, so it doesn't end in fiasco. Then you come and say, who are you? Let it go to referendum. This is the kind of thing that the whole solution to the problem is referendum. You can't say because you are one governor in one country, were you elected to come and become the owner of the sovereignty of the people? When you can't license one rifle to defend them from people who are killing them in your face. But when they organize, you now begin to run your mouth against them. Let our elected officials, the 30 days we give to them is running. Once it's done, just like we gave the federal government 90 days, and they refuse to turn up, the 30 days we gave the elected officials from this alliance territory, including that governor in Ondo, including the other governors, is running out. By the time it runs out, of course, we move on to the balance of the populace and the international community to complete the consultations. Then we come back to what will happen thereafter. I would think we just have to pull ourselves away from this nasty talk of secession and separatism. It is called self-determination. If we prefer to play pranks and mischief while the house is on fire, the populace is watching. And by the time they come to knock at the door of those who are doing that mischief, they won't find people like me there to come and ask them to take it easy. Their lives are at stake. This is not the time to play any politics.